from the support function to this force multiplier that we see it to become. So that is what we're going to talk about. But in the meanwhile, okay, we'll indulge into an interesting bit, but I guess after this discussion. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, how GCCs are moving up the value chain. How does the shift looks like? What are the challenges and the future outlook in this interconnected world is what we're going to get talking and cracking both. So we have roped in indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Hence, I would want you to usher in some good round of applauses as we welcome your session moderator, the one who is able and accomplished partner and GCC industry leader from Deloitte South Asia, Rohan Lobo. Of course, one of our dearest advisory board members as well. Thank you very, very much, Rohan, for walking up. I know you being the host for this discussion, so I've invited you first. I hope you're all set to meet and greet as we are just almost set on the stage. Your very, very illustrious panel, I must say. We see all the vibrant looking pictures, and it's no surprise who's going to be joining us on the stage. But as Rohan is all set to welcome them, we'll also urge our dear panel members to try and be seated according to the pictures that are being seen. But we'll make sure that this is impactful. Please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Pawan Sachdeva, the Managing Director, Technology from Carelon Global Solutions, India. Please welcome Mr. Sachdeva with a good round of applause. Thank you very much for joining in. Please welcome Amit Talwar, the Country Director, India Leader from AGCO. Amit, thank you so much for taking out the time. Rajesh Mani, the SVP, Head of Asia Pacific Technology Hubs, Mastercard, will walk the talk. Avinash, Samrit, the Country Head, India, and President, Global Capability Center, Clean Harbors, Inc. Avinash, thank you so much for joining. Arpitha Guru Shetty, GM, GSS, India Site Lead, Global Service Delivery Lead, R2R, Global Shared Services, Kohler Co. Also joining us. Arpitha, thank you very, very much. With that, let's also welcome Sidhartha Shishoo, the Business Operations Lead, Dentsu Global Services, also holding the fort. Well, this looks way more, the gravity looks way more than your applauses. Ladies and gentlemen, let's join in synergy as we get started with this up. Rohan, I hope you're all set. Over to you.
Thank you very much for that. And first of all, good morning, Pune, and welcome to the 8th edition of ET Edge Global Capability Centers. Global Capability Centers, you know, we've, over the past 20 years, heard so many different names for this. In-house centers, captive centers, global capability centers, global transformation centers, enterprise studios. There's also another name, global confusion centers. I don't know who said that, but there's global confusion centers also. But, you know, we've seen this grow significantly. They've come a long way from just being cost centers to value hubs. Cost centers is not a bad thing. With the GCCs that are there in India, and the spends happening from India, it's expected that $3 trillion of global market capitalization happens because of the cost arbitrage. And cost arbitrage is the basis on which you can give extremely high value because you're allowed to fail fast, you're allowed to innovate. And therefore, it becomes a flywheel in terms of benefits that can be given to the parent companies. As per Deloitte's research, about 70% of GCCs have some or the other digital transformation initiative that's running. About 50% of GCCs are driving strategic innovation programs. And what we're going to do today is going to discuss how can that be significantly enhanced and what are the dimensions of that. So maybe I'll dive straight away into the questions, and maybe Rajesh, I'll start with you. I've been to a lot of GCCs, right? 90% of these GCCs have some kind of an artificial intelligence, machine learning center, but only about 10% of them have end-to-end ownership. So when it comes to the strategic evolution of GCCs, and we're looking at mindsets, mandates, and measurements at the headquarters, what are your thoughts in terms of what we need to do and what needs to be done?
Good morning. Absolute pleasure to be here along with my eminent co-panelists. And Rohan, great way to start this panel, right? Fantastic question. A question most, if not all, GCC leaders have been grappling with for a while now. For us to reimagine the way we can unlock enterprise value requires bold and deliberate steps across these three dimensions: mindset, measurement, and mandates. And I must say, it starts with the mindset. We need to start reimagining our GCCs as innovation engines and not efficiency centers. Right? And I heard Belly talk about this as well. A lot of us, even you alluded to this. Traditionally, enterprises set up GCCs in India to leverage on the cost arbitrage. I mean, absolutely. Which meant the kind of work they would bring in was pretty much low down on the value chain, which also meant the models associated, therefore, were very, very traditional. Now, these models need to change simply because the world around us, the business dynamics is changing, and the easiest place to get disintermediated is if you have only cost arbitrage, which is where businesses need to start looking at GCCs as part of the core engine that drives business transformation. For that, GCCs need to be seen as innovation hubs and not just execution centers. That's point number one. And let me kind of illustrate that with what we did at Mastercard. Right? In Mastercard, we started the Pune setup about 10, 11 years ago with 200 folks. And today we are 6,000 plus professionals strong, having leadership across 90 plus technology programs. What this means is we've today become a nucleus of innovation that drives strategic outcomes for the enterprise. In fact, we are super proud to say that today the Pune Tech Hub is the largest tech hub, in your words, GCC, for Mastercard globally. And I was talking to Amit earlier this morning, saying that this was a very conscious choice, that we need to go up the value chain. And typically, if you look at the value chain, right, and I heard Billy speak about this as well, you start off with cost arbitrage, that's phase one. Phase two typically is skill arbitrage. And phase three would be technology arbitrage. And I suspect today, lots of GCCs are looking at getting into the technology arbitrage space simply because harder to disintermediate, far more value to the organization, and more importantly, you're able to leverage what the ecosystem offers in terms of artificial intelligence, generative, agentic, a bunch of names, cloud computing, government policies. But for this to succeed, as leaders, we need to start driving a culture of innovation within our GCCs. Therefore, consequentially, comes the second dimension, which is measurement. Again, traditionally, and I heard you say this again, right? Cost arbitrage is not bad. Traditional KPIs were around cost saves or operational efficiency. I mean, these were pretty much the two parameters on which you would get judged. But if you want to go up the value chain towards the technology side, I believe we need to add more KPIs around things like speed of innovation, global product development contributions. Right? We hear a lot of conversations around how much do we contribute to product. Time to market reduction, that's something we can definitely drive. And digital outcomes, I heard Swati talk about this, right? Digital world. So how do we start driving digital outcomes from the GCCs? Again, let me borrow a couple of examples from Mastercard, the way we have done this. One is we have a program called Community Pass. It's a platform that helps unlock value for small farm holders, right? Typical innovation. We work a lot across the agri value chain where we digitize the whole value chain. And tokenization solutions which help make digital transactions, payment transactions far more secure, therefore accelerating its adoption. Two clear examples of how we have measurable innovations coming out of our GCCs. And therefore, the last one is, in my mind, a no-brainer, which is the mandate. And I know, again, it's probably become a theme that most leaders today realize that we need more leadership. So in my mind, three things need to happen. Got to be clear mandates around leadership, ownership, and more importantly, an ability to work and collaborate within the ecosystem. Because I see more often than not, people don't do the last one. Again, illustrating this with examples from Mastercard. On the leadership side, again, Belly referred to this. He spoke about it's not just about growing in numbers. You need to grow in leadership. So we have significant investments made in terms of our leaders within the India team. People who both own products and deliver them across the enterprise. We do a lot of work with the government, be it states, be it central government. We are very deeply engaged with certain on working around how do we enhance the cybersecurity within the entire ecosystem. We do a lot of work with entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, small and medium enterprises. The idea being you need to start becoming a contributor within the overall ecosystem if you not need to start seeing value across the enterprise. I want to be mindful of time as well. So to conclude, all I'll say is if we need to unlock value across the enterprise, there's got to be a conscious attempt to depart from the traditional models of GCC. Thank you.
Being deliberate about your choices, given the context of the business that you're in and the outcomes you're trying to deliver. But I may just take that a step further and say, your outcomes will be what your end customers' outcomes are. So for example, if you just tailor it to how many new additions in customers did I get, what is the market share I got, what's the cost I reduced, and what's the margin I increased, what's the wealth I created, then it kind of helps those strategic choices come through. But we talked about the mandate and the measurement and all of that, but how does one go about architecting one's organization given, and Avinash, this is a question to you, how does one go about architecting the business? Because you have over here a lot of GCC leaders, you've got tower leaders, you've got people running smaller GCCs, larger GCCs. How does one go about architecting the internal policies, procedures, technology, organization design to cater to so many stakeholders' expectations?
That's a great question indeed. And good morning, everyone. I'll probably take a cue from what was just said. And we all have read begin with end in mind, right? And that holds good when it comes to your question about how do you really set up this organization. And so instead of talking about some theory concept, I'll probably share my experience and what worked for us, which may or may not always work elsewhere. To give a background, 6.5 years ago, I joined. We had already set up a small team, about 30, 35 people. Like everybody else, doing some basic transactional work. Here we are today, 6 years down the line, 2,000 people. But I think the journey has been from headcount, because you need to have a critical mass, from headcount to measuring outputs to really getting business outcomes. And now we are all talking about what business outcomes are really needed. And so the traditional way of structuring any organization, be it GCC or otherwise, you'll have, okay, there's a finance group, there's a HR group, that's something typical, and nothing wrong with it. But I think today we need things beyond that. And again, taking some specific examples, do we have, and it has to be part of design, not an afterthought, like process engineering. Do we have specifically a function that is focusing on that? Or data analytics across the board, do you have some setup which actually uses that intelligence within the organization? Do we have that? And these all elements have to be built into your roadmap. Now we all understand that we may not be able to start with all of this in place, but so long as it is part of your roadmap and you at the same time are fluid enough to adjust, to learn from what you get as outcomes from your, from the org structure that you have. I think that's something important. With the advent of AI, and I know no conversation will in our industry will ever happen without the mention of AI, and everyone talks about AI, and great. What AI has now done is that the basic, functional knowledge, procedural knowledge is available at fingertips. That's no more in USP. We all know that. But how are we really using that? And is our org structure really helping to get that symphony of all this going together and delivering the outcome. I think that is where truly the org design really matters, and how fluid you are. And when again, I'll talk about specific examples here. When we started as a small team, today we have the chief digital officer of the company working out of the GCC. Someone we wouldn't even thought about it. So that's there. But what really is helping us do that is because it's not just that. We also have 4 of our field general managers, people who manage operations on the field, working out of India. Now that's a big thing, right? So you have this synergy between these teams, and we strongly encourage cross-pollination. Is that part of your org design, wherein you are creating roles which are not tied to a specific skills? Oh, I am looking for some, and I'll pick an example, environmental compliance, a big deal for us. It's a niche skill. Yes, it's a niche skill, but it is not something that can't be acquired, it can be learned. But how are you leveraging someone with some different skill? Because if you're typecasting people, oh, he's a tech guy, oh, he's a functional expert at this, I think that's when we have a problem. So I think it's time that we revisit our orgs, the way we are designing our orgs. Our traditional methods maybe are not capable of really taking us forward. And while doing all of this, I think the key element here is we can talk about anything sitting here in India and talk about org design, but how are we partnering, involving the entire ecosystem? And that's why I remember when I started, and my then CEO asked me, what is the single, if I have to ask you one success factor for you to be successful, and I said executive sponsorship. If you don't have executive sponsorship, buy-in and skin in the game, till the time that you are a GCC or you are a captive or you are someone across the board, you throw something, magic happens, and and then outcome, yeah, or you get output. So long as that exists, it's going to be challenging for any GCC to be a true strategic differentiator. So I think building those relationships, partnerships is important. And that's why, again, another last element in the org design is, are we looking at org design which is limited to the GCC? Today we have cross border reporting structures. So we have multiple product owners here, and our folks in North America report into the team here, and vice. It's not one way, it's vice versa. So are we having that kind of a setup wherein it's not basis just functional expertise tied to maybe finance or tech? That should not be the limitation. Two, is it bound by a certain geography? I think that's the other element. And while doing all of this, do we have the executive buy-in support to make sure that this entire thing works? I think that's probably what the main consideration is.
So I think picking up from what Beliappa was saying, we were moving from output to outcome, means that you'll need a structure that handles outcomes and accountability on outcomes a bit more. And that is the driver for having a different structure in terms of how GCC has been aligned. So moving on, I think, Amit, if I ask how many people over here know of AGCO, probably not many hands would go up, and maybe we can just test it. Has anybody heard of AGCO? Okay, a few of them. Good job done, Amit. But if I ask this audience, how many of you know of Massey Ferguson tractor? Everybody's hand is going to go up. The hundreds of billions of dollars are going into innovation. So what is the mandate at GCC? How are GCCs enabling innovation? And in the context of yours, I know you disagree with me, but Massey Ferguson, in my view, there's nothing electronic in it. But then if you go to Fent, you could actually sit in your house and do your farming with your tractor going about doing it themselves, right? So how have you done it?
Thank you, Rohan. And I'm actually humbled to be sitting in Pune and attending a GCC conclave, and in front of someone who has taught me GCC. He's sitting right here. So thank you so much for teaching. So I will try to articulate it in a very simple manner. I think it starts with, do you really know what the company strategy is? You know what is core to the strategy? A lot of us talk about bringing headcount to India, growing a kingdom. It's not about that. It's about understanding what is important to the CEO. We talked about the seat on the table. Once you can get that vision into your own mind, you become the talking piece. And what you do from there is you really look at the work that you do and articulate it as what is core. And it's not on the tech stack, it's what is core to the organization, because I'm here to actually create that value. You talked about disruptors, disruption services, and things like that. Once you do that, we don't have to do everything ourselves. We have to leverage our partner ecosystem. It's vibrant, it is successful, has been around for 15 years. Once you get that into your mindset and you start living it, it doesn't matter which stage of your maturity journey you are. If you're early in the maturity journey, do that right now. If you're somewhere in the midway, make the change. Make the change, go for partners who can do it better. Spend time on what is important for the strategy, for the organization, instead of what is important for the tech strategy for your GCC. That's one. The second I will talk about is, I know talent will be spoken. For me, talent is a big deal. And we have various approaches. One, you go the traditional way, you go hire talent, and then we need to wait for 90 days. Somebody will show up, somebody will not show up. Why do you want to go that way? That's very traditional. Augment it, go for your partners. They will bring you not only stuff that they can do for you, which is transactional, but also help you to augment capability that you may not have because you're new, you're still building it up. Do not forget, I think we also need to invest into our ecosystem, that is partnering with universities and trying to build those incubation, because we have a global presence and we are trying to bring that. I will talk about what we did for all of these steps. Next is, when you get the people, it's all about the culture. And the way I talk about is, in the headquarters, all your functions are by silos. Your marketing sits in one building, engineering sits in one building. In your GCC, everybody sits under the same roof. Break the silos, get rid of offices, make it open office so people are more open to not only collaborating with you as a leader, but also with each other. Make intentional decisions. For example, get your customer support business guy to sit with your customer support digital guy. The digital guy will understand what he does is so important for the customer. The customer support will understand, hey, you know what, I need to look, not point fingers at this guy, but he's trying to help me to get better in what I do. Build those collaboration opportunities, and then also invest in things like development of your people and reward failure. I really believe in failure is very important, because without failure, you will not get success. Do not set such high barriers and say that, oh, we have to succeed. We will fail before we succeed. And once you do that, you can highlight that and get sponsorship. So what did we do in AGCO? We started 3 years ago, very similar to where Avinash was talking about. Nobody knew AGCO. People thought we are AGCO. And then this reputed gentleman who's sitting right here, I will take the liberty of saying your name, KSV, came and explained to our sponsors what you can do in India. From there, we started with a digital footprint in Pune. We have now a very large center in Bangalore, a large center in Pune doing ER&D. We have traditional support services coming out of our Gurgaon office, and we have our 4th center that we are putting together in Chennai. And not only we started with the vision, we will only do digital. We have moved from every function in the company has a footprint in India. Anytime a new decision is to be made about transferring work, the first question the CEOs ask is India first. And the way you can do that is by integrating, because I don't speak about how many people I have. I speak about what impact I'm making to further the company strategy. Thank you.
I think Amit's a very humble person, and he's forgotten probably the most important thing that goes into it, which is leadership. And I'll explain how he's demonstrated leadership in AGCO. So it is a very simple business process, which is, you need to book tickets. And normally you kind of delegate that to the travel office or to your secretary. But Amit worked with Amex and, got a agentic AI bot that does that. And if the leadership does that, then imagine what the frontline engineer in the organization does. So culture, Amit, and leadership, does that play a role?
Absolutely. Without that, I don't think you can, because I think talent is, and this will be spoken by another panel member, I think failures are going to be the steps to success with talent as your biggest weapon in your center.
Arpitha, maybe I'll talk about talent with you. We all have a dilemma. I'm also running a business. I've also got a dilemma. I've got a set of people. They have a certain set of skills. Everything around me is moving at a pace that I can't manage. And Do I hire those skills? Do I uptrain my skills? In fact, I was reading Harvard Business Review this particular month. It's got the same dilemma as the case study. So what are your thoughts in terms of talent, given that, there is AI disruption happening, there are talks about job losses in AI, but there are also talks about net new jobs getting created by AI to a significant extent, and these are researches from governments across the world and OECD and all of that. So what are your thoughts in terms of talent strategies for the future?
So, Rohan, I believe that talent acquisition, talent development, talent retention, it's an ongoing journey, right? In GCCs, transformation and innovation starts at ground zero. We need curious minds sitting there because they are the one who identify the opportunities. So I think what's important is we have to make sure that we do skill-based hiring rather than trying to go on credentials and years of experience. That's been my learning. I think we need to build an ecosystem that could help us develop the talent pipeline that we need because we know what is going to come up, right? Right now it's AI all over the place. So we need to make sure we have a pipeline that will help us to get where we have to be. I think Mr. Beliappa made a very good reference, which really resonated a lot, is how are we going to make sure we have the talent? The meta-national talent pool that he explained is so amazing. So I think we have few levers we also have to depend on, like for example, hybrid model. What we did is we almost have 30% remote employees because we found talent at remote corners and they couldn't move cities. So we said, okay, let's go with a hybrid model. 30% talent can be based out anywhere and can work remotely. Diversity is another lever. Again, not limited to hiring women, which is always misunderstood. Our GCC has always maintained 50% plus diversity, and I cover all the elements. It's not just about hiring women. Now, that is about acquisition, but I think development is another thing. In the current age, what's important when it comes to training, developing is experiential learning, right? I'll give you my own example. I took over a team about 2 years back, and when I joined, I knew that the leadership style was, we were two extremes. The erstwhile leader and me, we were two extremes. The maturity of the organization had moved ahead, so things had to change. So what we did is for 6 months after observing, I gave real scenarios to the training team to build, and that's how we did the workshop. And it was a super success because people could relate to what was I asking, why was I asking. So I think that's important. I recently had a conversation with one of the senior leader, and he was very upset because he found that the team in GCC did not know business at all. My question was, how much does the organization invest in making the team aware of the business? Because we are always so much behind numbers and count and things like that. We take little time to make the teams understand what's it about the business. Like in Kohler, within 6 months, we had visited the Kohler plants. So I think while we had handled all the stress of backlog management, setting up the operations in the initial 6 to 12 months, what made it very meaningful is when we visited the sites, we saw the products, how the products were being developed. I mean, the experience of going through that entire process and getting that visibility of those beautiful products of Kohler being built, that brings in a completely different dimension to the talent. And they would also feel a sense of belonging. They would like to be invested in what they are doing. So I think these are the things that we need to also invest in to make sure our talent is being developed, they can be retained, and that's how we will also develop. And one thing I've been kind of playing around but haven't tried yet is reverse coaching. We talk so much about how we can't retain Gen X. How much are we investing to understand their perspective? Why are they not staying back? What are they expecting from the organization? That's the next experiential training I want to kind of invest in.
Rajesh?
Yeah, I think it's a valid point, very important point Arpitha made, which is around getting folks in our GCCs to understand what our core business is. Again, classic Mastercard. So I've been with Mastercard for about 12 years, of which 8 was on the business side. So I consciously wanted to come to this side of the business to understand what's happening here. And I've been blessed with some fantastic colleagues, I see some of them sitting here, who've kind of encouraged our fellow colleagues to understand I mean, I have a classic example, right? We had something for the first review, somebody came up and told me, oh, you know what? We've gone from 99.9 to 99.99. I said, so what? How does it ever make a difference in anybody's life, right? So then the leaders started working with the team to tell them, hey, so let's translate this into business outcomes and see how this is actually impacting our customers. So when you start telling a story, you know what, I've impacted a customer so much by going from 99.9 to 90. Keep that at the back end, but learn to tell the story of how you actually drive customer outcomes.
So the takeaway I'm taking is one is your technical skills will not be all enough. You will need to have business skills, and the most important thing after that is that once you know what you're changing, you got to articulate what you're changing. So the soft skills comes into play in terms of articulating it. So Siddharth, maybe I'll talk to you about AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, and all of that. But then combine that with Industry 5.0, combine that with digitalization, which is still abysmally low. The market is expected to grow 30% or more than 30% CAGR over the next 10 years. So what are your thoughts in terms of how to stay relevant, how GCCs need to stay relevant in this kind of rapidly changing environment?
Thanks, Rohan. I think for us, we are in the center of that disruption with our end consumers, customers of ours. So from our perspective, since we are in the center of that relationship with our customers who are also getting disturbed and disrupted by their consumer behaviors and their ability to understand their consumers, and we are helping them support those elements of how do you personalize your customer journeys, how do you hyper-personalize through various elements of digital and not traditional elements. So for us, for our survival as a company, we have to be forefront with respect to it. Thankfully for us, in our center of gravity, which is our GCC here, we've always led from data. We've always led with a mindset where we use science to solve consumer behavior problems. And we've always had very comfortable elements around data handling. And so over the last 10, 15 years of our existence within the country, and we are almost 5,600 people now, we've always had an ability to use data to support our client journeys. And that has made a huge impact because we've always been thinking business first, customer first, because their consumers are changing and they're looking for our thought leadership in that sense. So for us, the transition hasn't been so disruptive, but we are ahead of the curve because our consumers and their consumers are actually always looking for more and different, and their competitive advantages are going away. So for us, internally, we're pushing, and Billy talked about the fact that it is part of thinking outcomes, thinking how technology can enable outcomes to run faster. Our speed to insights for our consumers and customers become essential. So we have pushed a lot of effort with respect to being the thought leadership around tech and AI and the productization journeys that we are in. A lot of our investments coming from right from the top into our centers to actually think about future, not think about today's problems, but futuristic challenges. And therefore, a lot of our ecosystems that we're building within our environment with our partners is also about thinking how things will change in the next 12 to 18 months for our customers. Therefore, how do we pivot for our markets to be ahead of the curve, because they're also competing in that same market. So for us, I think we are enjoying this disruption that we are seeing in our end customers because their consumers are changing. And for us, it's a great opportunity for us to help the company grow faster using the AI first mindset, which we are leading as a thought leadership. It's almost like something that Billy talked about, the ability for us to look at challenges across the globe and take one best practice from one market to second market and the third market. And we're operating against 120 markets, and top 10 markets, if we can really impact through what we do about today and tomorrow, that's the kind of effort that we're leading. And some of my colleagues during the day will talk about some of the work that we're trying to do on the AI side. So we, from our perspective, I see there's a great opportunity for us in India and the GCC, and for us as a global services to support the future of the company and enable that to happen.
So you talked about outcomes, you talked about being proactive, about looking at the future and saying, how do we prepare for that? Uh, Pawan, I think Carelon is right in the middle of an ecosystem play, right? You've got the insurance provider, you've got the um, hospital providers, you've got the patients, and the way in which Carelon provides services and makes money is an absolute ecosystem play. But when it comes to GCCs, how do you amplify that ecosystem play?
So I think Amit and Rajesh both have articulated very well. The need of leveraging ecosystem is very, very important. We all understood. But then in my personal point of view, we understand the need, but then how plays a very, very important role. Continuous engagement plays a very important role with all three segments, if I have to say, academia. It's very important for us to share with the students what is the need, where industry is going, what they are learning today. Is it relevant for them to be successful on the day one in the job? Versus what are the skills which they need to acquire now in their probably last semester, if not entire graduation time frame. Second one, leveraging startup ecosystem. Startup ecosystem is growing very well in India. Okay, and then government is also providing a lot of support to grow startups, also connect them with larger industry. But then how much time we are spending sharing our problems proactively with some of the startups and giving them a guidance and mentoring to be successful rather than focusing just on tech, how to solve business problems than running behind technology advancements. Third one, in my point of view, which we don't consider too much, is leveraging tech partners. Okay, because all of those tech partners have their GCCs in India. They also go through same struggles as us, proving themselves, okay, they are better, they also have a right knowledge. But then are we really leveraging them? And in my personal experience, things have changed significantly in the last 2 years, specifically. There were days when some of these tech partners, being it AWS, Pega, Salesforce, they used to talk to US partners because they knew payment, big money, power center is US, and never used to pay attention to India. But I have seen a significant change. They also know engineering workforce is sitting in India. If they can impact in India, product will be successful. So leveraging them is very, very important. And I have seen a significant benefit of leveraging tech partners and startup in India to create impact for our organization.
So I think that's an amazing insight, because a lot of tech companies are now having GCC verticals and are looking at GCCs as a dedicated sector. Now, as we come into the last few minutes, I thought I'll put our panelists in a little bit of a spot. So I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions. And they ask, all of us can talk away to glory, but I'm going to ask only one word from you against each of these questions, right? So, and in no particular order. Amit, what is the future of GCC?
Culture.
Culture, okay. Rajesh, what is the most critical capability that a GCC will have?
Talent.
Critical capability, talent, okay. What is the, Avinash, what is the one city which is a tier 2 or tier 3 city that is going to become a tier 1 city fast?
I know what's coming.
That's a loaded question.
Only one city. I'm putting you in a spot.
Okay. So I said Pune. Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. Sorry, you asked for one. I think there are multiple cities competing, and we have offices in Hyderabad, Pune, and Bangalore. So I have my, it's a mixed bag here.
I told you the GCC person can talk away, but
Absolutely.
only one city.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Arpitha, top technology that will transform a GCC.
Of course, AI, what else?
What in AI is going to transform?
I think more than, okay, not a one word, but okay, curiosity probably, that could be what.
Soft skills part of it, yeah. Okay, one threat, Sidhartha, to GCCs in India.
I think laziness.
Very good, that's the word. I was also looking for that same word. You can't say healthcare, but what is the one sector that will be disrupted by GCCs doing better?
See, financial was number one, like we started doing a lot of stuff in India. But now manufacturing is also, like R&D and manufacturing.
I was wanting you to say something more than financial, so I let you say the second word. What is the one word that describes your culture? Rajesh, what is the one word that describes your culture in GCC?
Empowerment.
Empowerment, okay. Most inspiring company outside of your organization?
One word.
Only one company.
One company. It has to be in any area,
Any sector other than yours.
any sector
Other than AGCO, any other one.
other than AGCO. I would have said AGCO, but he won't take it. I, I will say most inspiring company would be Apple for me.
Apple, okay. One single must-have skill, Avinash.
Influencing.
Sorry?
Influencing.
Influencing. I think that deserves a little bit of a clap. Okay. And lastly, I think, Arpitha, top metric by which to measure a GCC.
Business outcome,
How
contribution.
many business outcomes? Any one of them?
Or digital maturity index?
Digital maturity index. Okay, I think with that we're almost on the dot in time. I want to thank all the panelists. They all started very grim, but now they're smiling. So pat on my back on that for that. But,
Absolutely.
But thank you very much for giving your insights, and I think thank you very much for being a very patient audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much.